Okay,
And
we're recording. Welcome to the meeting.
excellent. Just want to see if I can get full screen somehow.
I'm seeing full screen.
Are you?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting because I'm not, but as long as it is going out full screen.
Yep. I see
Well,
your
it's not
cursor
full
moving
screen, but
around.
I see your keynote. When you say play, then
Oh,
it'll show
okay.
full screen.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I haven't hit the play yet.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
So let's mute everybody else.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Defense Against the Dark Arts. I think you Harry Potter fans know where that came from. The internet has been around for decades now, and it's expanded, and it is global, and it is still the Wild West out there. There is no international police force to see to it that people are behaving properly. And you just need to be aware of how to protect yourself from people who are going to take advantage. Con artists, scammers have actually been around for centuries, and they tend to continue to use the same ploys that work now in the digital age. So I'd like to start with and hopefully this will play well, a short clip from Snopes.com. Snopes is a website, a good one, I believe, that takes questions and checks to see whether they're urban myths or whether they actually are true. And the question in mind is, will Apple call you if they suspect that there's suspicious activity going on your phone or on your computer? So let's see if this will play right. Yes, there are a lot of different kinds of malware out there. All of them are bad news for us if they infect our digital devices. And you can see some of them listed here. We're not going to spend any time trying to define what these are. Just be aware that they're bad news, and we'll move on. So exactly how does a bad guy, a hacker, take advantage of you? What they will do is they will send some kind of email or pop-up window or something of that sort with malicious stuff on it, and they will, one way or another, try to get you to click on it. If you do, then that software will broadcast, in effect, over to a hacker-controlled server. And from there, it can get into your computer, and the hacker has access to your financial records, all kinds of accounts, stuff that you don't want to happen. there's a variation on this in which the user logs into his bank account, and because the hacker is aware of the domains that you're using, they can actually get that information that you've logged into your bank account onto their hacker server, and then instead of getting the bank account responding, you get their faked online bank account, which looks the same. At which point it asks you to put in your username and password. And once you've done that, the hacker actually can unload your bank account. So it's not good. Last month, it was April, the monthly AARP Bulletin had a cover article on international digital fraud. And I found it interesting. It's a great article if you can get to it. But here's a page from it. It turns out that what once was individual bad guys, scammers, hackers, and so forth, that were creating malware and taking advantage of people who didn't know how to avoid them. It's now big business. And there are large groups organized all over the globe, very sophisticated. It's being run like a business. My wife informed me just the other day that there was actually a fraudulent activity going on in prison where the inmates were spoofing that they were from I believe, the police department, and were able to separate people from their money while in prison. Hard to believe, but they were doing it. So I want to have a 1-minute lesson on the psychology of scamming, because this has been going on, as I said before, centuries, and it seems to be working, and it continues to work. Scammers target our emotions. They use fear, they use desire. We'll get more into that later, but emotions work on the amygdala part of our brain. And when we get really emotional, our logical thinking center, the neocortex, sort of shorts out and the emotions take over. So the emotions block our logic, and this is how the scammers are able to pull this off. It's not just simple-minded people who become victims. Very intelligent people, psychiatrists and lawyers and whatever, they too are readily victims of these kinds of scams. The type of malware I'm talking about can be on your iPhone, can be on your iPad, it can be on your MacBooks, computers. It's very similar in how it operates, but I'd like to address the phone attacks first. Now, of course, you don't want to drop your phone, that can break it. You don't want somebody to actually steal your phone. That can be bad, but there are ways that bad guys can get a hold of your information even without your phone. Probably you've seen places like this, public charging stations. You're at the airport, maybe the library, possibly the hospital, and your phone battery is dying. And hey, there is a nice little place where I can plug in my phone. This is great. I'm glad to see it. And the only problem is that the scammers sometimes will get in there and they'll change the electronics, and then we're in trouble because you plug into that and they have access to your phone just as you do. You'll also notice this particular charging station has some AC outlets, and there's some little power blocks that some people are plugged in with. And Those aren't quite as dangerous to use as the ports themselves, but they too can cause problems. If you are going to use a charger for your phone, be sure it's an Apple certified charger and not one that you found plugged in someplace. Even better, perhaps, is to use a portable backup battery. These are available. They're not all that expensive, and they're very effective. They can even charge up several iPhones before you need to charge the battery in them up. So that's a good way to avoid contact from scammers. Another way that we can be compromised is when we use free public Wi-Fi. Well, free public Wi-Fi is very useful. I've used it at Kaiser Hospital at times, and I'm sure you've used it too. The problem is that one of these bad people could be sitting there with their phone spoofing a Wi-Fi network, and if you plug into that, then you're in trouble. So if you do use free Wi-Fi, don't log into a sensitive account. Don't log into your bank account. Don't log into the sorts of things that could cause you grief if somebody else got a hold of the information. Also, you can set up your iPhone so that it'll automatically connect to Wi-Fi networks. And when you're traveling, that can be risky because you might not know you're connecting to one of these spoofed Wi-Fi networks. So at least when you're traveling, disconnect the auto connection possibility. Robocalls are something probably you've all been experiencing. We have a landline in our home, and Robo is an excellent app that can help diminish the robocalls. We only get about 1/3 of what we used to get, but still maybe half a dozen a day. And that's because these spammers can spoof IDs. So they will call you up and you'll get a call from one of your good friends perhaps, or you'll get a call from the town you live in. I've even gotten a call from myself. That was interesting. But it's something to be aware of. If you get a call from the Social Security Administration or the police department, and it's this sort of mechanical sounding voice, I just recommend don't answer it. Phone number theft is another means by which the bad guys can cause us harm. They're not stealing our phone, they're stealing the number. If there is weak security, perhaps when you set up your phone with your carrier, Verizon, AT&T, or whatever, there were some security questions that you just put in straightforward, simple things that are easy to figure out. The scammers are good at that. So be sure that you come up with strong things of that sort. You'll know if your phone has been scammed because the SIM card is going to not work. Your phone won't work anymore. You'll know you're in big trouble. So again, be sure that you create challenging security questions, not only for phone accounts, but for any of your accounts. And finally, on the iPhone, install your software updates. The bad guys are out there coming up with new ingenious viruses and whatever, and Apple and their people are busy working on ways to block them and make them not get into your phone. But if you don't keep your phone updated, something might slip through. Moving on to computers. And I would like to be using my markup pen, which I'm having some trouble getting to cooperate right now. Moving on. Viruses can wreak havoc on our computers. And what you see here, you'll be able to see on this keynote presentation, which is going to be on the BBS later on. So don't worry about trying to read all this unless you choose to do so. You'll have a chance later. At any rate, the Mac OS is really well designed, and there are many technologies and systems in it to avoid getting hacked. So the Mac has a history of being much better at protecting its users than the PC. On the other hand, the scam artists and hackers out there continue to find new ways to exploit vulnerabilities. So let's do our best to not let that happen. So what do we do about detecting and stopping viruses? Probably most of you know this. Malwarebytes is an excellent program. We use it at DVMUG, and there are other antivirus softwares out there, generally for a considerable cost. None of them work any better than Malwarebytes. Here's an example of what it looks like when you start it up. Now, I haven't activated the license on Malwarebytes, so I'm not actually paying them. If I upgraded to premium, it would then be able to lurk in the background and check for viruses that might be showing up. On the other hand, I can scan whenever I choose. And so this would be an example of a scan in progress. It's not actually happening on the computer. This is just a slide. But you can see it's already scanned almost 30,000 items in just about a minute. And when it is completed, in this case, it scanned 30,544 items. In just a minute, 5 seconds, it gives you a report. There were no threats, nothing detected, so I'm good to go. I can click done. If there were a problem, Malwarebytes gives you the opportunity to quarantine it so it cannot wreak havoc on your Mac. The main part of what I want to share with you tonight is about phishing. Now, phishing is a kind of attack where we have our credentials, our passwords, information, bank accounts stolen. And the attacker pretends that he's a trusted person or maybe a trusted entity, such as your bank. The victim then, that would be us, we're duped into clicking on a link, an email, an instant message, a pop-up. It can be in a text message, but all it takes is a click and we can get ourselves in trouble. So this is where we need to become vigilant. Viruses target the software in our Mac, but the phishing targets us, the user. So it's now become the most common form of malware on the web, partly because it doesn't require sophisticated hacking skills. Many of you have probably heard of the dark web. This is a version of the internet where there is no accountability whatsoever and the people using it cannot be traced. So there are some very not good people there. And in fact, if I wanted to become a phisher, I could go to the dark web, purchase a phishing kit and a mailing list. Now, you probably have heard of some of our major institutions being hacked in the past. Sparian, Yahoo, millions, hundreds of millions, in fact, billions of accounts have been compromised. And there is information on people's addresses, their phone numbers, their social security numbers, passwords, all kinds of things in these lists. And these are for sale on the dark web. So with the kit, then
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay.
Is everything okay here? All right. At any rate, once a potential phisher uses his kit, he can spoof a legitimate website. They go to the legitimate website, they can make a screenshot of it, they can create something that looks exactly like that website, they can put phony links on it, and get you to log into what you think is perhaps your bank account when it actually is logging into their server. So this all happens from simple phishing. 3 stages to a phishing attack. Bait, hook, and catch. Just like the actual fishermen out there in boats on the ocean or perhaps on streams. So we'll talk about what these things are. But actually, the most effective attacks can be very simple. And if you click on a link or call the phone number, that's getting hooked. That's when you bite. Many of these attacks can be very creative. Some of them are quite crude. We're going to look at several of them. At any rate, once you've clicked, data can be harvested from your computer, malware can be placed on your computer, and it can all happen without your knowledge or participation. So, if we know what phishers use for bait, we're more likely to not let them catch us. Remember that scam artists use emotions. So fear and warnings is one of the kinds of bait. Here's an example of a virus or a supposed virus that was, and by the way, almost all of what I'm going to present you has shown up on my computer as attempted phishing expeditions that I haven't bitten on. I haven't allowed myself to be hooked. But I did take screenshots of them, and that's what we're looking at right now, the first one. And this was the Zeus virus. I suppose it was a legitimate virus in years past. They talk about all the bad stuff and say, please call the system technician at, you can see the 888 number and so forth. And I really wish I could get my pen to work here. At any rate, if you make that call, I hope that you don't let them talk you into getting into your computer, because that's what most of these hack technicians will do. They'll ask you to screen share, they'll ask you to let them get there, and then they will actually put a virus on your computer. Here's a different one, supposedly from Apple itself, Apple support. Okay, dear client, your Apple ID has been locked for security reasons. To unlock it, you must verify your identity, and you can see the blue link, unlock account. Don't click on it. I didn't click on it. If I don't act on this in 24 hours, they're going to disable my account. Well, I didn't act on it. My account wasn't disabled. Here's one from Yahoo. A final warning. They're deleting and shutting down my email. I'm going to lose all my email. And here it says, we are sorry for any inconveniences, and so forth. And they give me an attachment. You can see it in the lower left to open up. That would be a very bad idea. I didn't do that. If I could get my pen working, I would actually be circling things and showing you them. But since it isn't, I'll just tell you, if you look at the Yahoo 7 in the upper left, next to that is an address. And it says jelstontampus@yahoo.com. That doesn't look very much like a Yahoo technical support or anything like that. So your first line of defense is to check the address of the people sending you the email. And that often is the tell. You'll know that it is a phish. Here's one that's a bit more sophisticated from supposedly Apple support. There are a lot of things that are bad going on with my computer. Here's a phone number I could call. Over on the right, I could enter a registration key. I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but I'm not going to enter anything. And up in the top, you can see Microsoft-detect, and then a lot of text and so forth. That's a good example of an illegitimate source. Another kind of bait is riches, okay? Our emotions being hit at again, desire. So I've gotten a lot of these over the months that I've been collecting them. Here's one from Louis Vuitton. I'm not going to click on anything, including the unsubscribe. That might not be an unsubscribe button at all. I'm not going to click on anything on this page. Here's one I can get $100 from Costco. That's super, a $100 Costco card. But again, if you'll notice, it comes from zqvndel.irvna4j. There's probably more to the address. It got clipped in the picture, but yeah, I'm not going to be scammed on this. Here's one from McDonald's, supposedly from McDonald's. I get to claim a $100 prize. Great. One from Burger King, probably from the same person. It looks very similar. This one is related to my order at YouTube, that it was successful. I'm glad it was successful. And I'm really fortunate because I'm one of 10 lucky winners of a $1,000 gift card, either from Amazon or Walmart. I can claim my gift. You'll notice under the blue claim your gift button, there is a time remaining, and that's counting down. This is a still picture, but it will be going 43, 42 seconds, counting down. In other words, I have 5 hours to claim it or I lose it. So I'm not going to bother. Here's one from Mr. Michael Wilson. He has a strange address, doesn't he? Attention dear, it says, is the address up there. That was what the mail came as. And then attention dear beneficiary. Often some of these crude ones have really poor grammar and punctuation, spelling, and so forth. You know, I want to inform you that your compensation funds from empowerment program run by United States government or United Nations. Just looking at it, you can see it's riddled with all kinds of errors. But he wants me to fill in my city, county telephone number, occupation, age, and so forth. And I can text him. Well, not going to do it. Western Union. This is money from, my goodness, Malaysia. $1.5 million. That really is exciting, except it's, I know, bogus. And I really love this one. It came last August. Good news from the First Lady, although it's addressed from Mr. David Werfel. I am Mrs. Melania Trump, and I am written to inform you about your bank check draft brought by United Embassy from the government of Benin Republic to the White House in lowercase. That's interesting. And They want my home address, city, phone number, and so forth. Hey, it's for $18 million. Isn't that something great? And it's from Mrs. Melania Trump, First Lady. So I know we can trust the First Lady of the United States, but I don't trust this. Another kind of bait is spoofing. Spoofing is when the hacker will pretend to be someone else or a different kind of entity. So a lot of these categories overlap each other. So here Amazon is being spoofed. The alert. Actually, I've gotten emails from Amazon legitimately of this sort where they'll talk about an order and ask if an issue I had was resolved. This I could see from the address line, no reply at, -2529, so forth. I knew this was not legitimate, but I went ahead and looked up the marketplace order on Amazon anyway, just to see if it might be close to one that I made. And it was in the right format for an Amazon marketplace order. Obviously, it wasn't legitimate. Here, I'm being told my Amazon Prime subscription is canceled and my money is being refunded. There are a lot of places I could click on this. I could report scam, that's a link. I could click on read more. I could click on unsubscribe. Don't click on anything. This one came out just as the coronavirus was ramping up. And supposedly from the World Health Organization, it looks very legitimate. It reads very well. It has good grammar in English and spelling. And it is a really devious, ugly piece of scam. What they want you to do is to download their ebook. And you can see that on the upper left, My Health-ebook zip, 22 kilobytes. People who downloaded it, I am told, had malware put on their computer. So there are a few decent guidelines on how to protect yourself from the coronavirus here, enough to maybe make you want to download their ebook, except it's actually malware. And I imagine many of you have seen this. It pops up on my computer frequently. Update the Flash player. Amazon, when, I shouldn't say Amazon, Adobe, with their Flash player had to put out updates almost every month. And so they came out frequently. And so did the scammers version of them. These are being spoofed and it would be wrong to click on it. There was a safe way to find the updates. I no longer am interested in Adobe Flash Player, so I just trash these when I get them. Here's one from Bank of America. This is a bit more sophisticated. It's well put together. If I had a Bank of America account, I could sign in. If I wanted to create online banking, I could enroll on this. Lots of places to link. All of them are going to cause me trouble. Romance is another excellent way that they attempt to get us to bite. You might have heard of Silver Singles Online Dating. I think that is a legitimate organization. However, I don't care for the addresses that these are coming from. I'm unwilling to click on these links. Here's another one. Again, it's so easy to spoof this, even if it's a legitimate website. This might be a spoof instead. Who needs it? Here's one from eHarmony. I know eHarmony is a legitimate organization. This one comes from newsletter.us, blah, blah, blah. Again, trash it. Date hot Asians. Yeah, okay, this sounds exciting, but I'm not really interested in doing that. And finally, here's one, Russian women online. Lots of places to click. You'll notice the address on this one is from Gardak Rosehar at yahoo.com.jp. .jp actually is an address from Japan. So obviously this would be a bad one to click on. We'll return to this a little bit later because there's more I'd like to show you about it. Impersonation is another way they can bait us. I have done the redacting on this email that I got from a friend. So I took out his actual address and his last name. He needed a favor from me. Notice he didn't say, "Hi, Peter." He said, "Hi there." And he'd appreciate if I would get back. I actually let him know that I got a fish in his name, but I didn't respond to it. And this one here from another friend, again, I did the redacting. I'm presently stuck in Turkey right now. I came here on vacation. Unfortunately, I got robbed at the park of the hotel where I stayed. All my money, credit cards stolen. Thank God I'm still alive. I urgently need a loan. Would you please, help me out? Sandy was at her home right here in actually in Rossmore. I'm not in Rossmore, but she was, and this wasn't her. PayPal. This one looks really well done. It's quite professional. My account has been temporarily restricted, and I could have some problems with this. So I can view the statement. I can learn more by clicking links. But if I look at the address at the top, I can see it very likely is not PayPal. What I did after I trashed this was to open up my PayPal account and check that everything was well, which it was. Likewise, here's one from Wells Fargo, account require verify. Yeah, that's a tell right there. That hardly makes any sense. I don't actually have my own specific Wells Fargo account, but I think this is just, this kind of fish is sent out to thousands, if not millions of people, hoping to get some bites. And here's a bit more sophisticated one sent from Bank of America, supposedly. Note that at the top it says, "This message is from a trusted sender." Oh, well, then I guess we can click on their verification link. Okay, so be careful. Finally, one other kind of bait that you'll often see used is urgency. Recall the Adobe Flash update post that I got. I actually trashed it, and when I did, this is what I got. These all popped up one after the other in about 5 seconds. Are you sure you want to leave? It's, really urgent that you take care of this thing. So I trashed this too. Here are some other things maybe you've seen before or you're likely to see. Your Mac is infected. This is serious. One of them is critical. Click the proceed button. No, thank you. Here's another one. You've got 3 viruses on your Mac. And I've got 1 minute and 46 seconds before the damage is permanent. And I think that one also counted down, 45, 44. If they can get you scared and you're emotional and you see time is running out, you might do something stupid. One of our close friends actually was taken in by this kind of ploy. And here's another one about the Mac OS not working right. It's infected or whatever, and places to click, also a phone number to call. I didn't. So what I've done here is gone to the home page of the DVMUG website. So we know the DVMUG website is legitimate. Notice at the top is the address, www.dvmug.org. That's a straightforward, legitimate business address. Not secure, well, you can talk to Ann and John about that. But at any rate, this is fine. Now there are places that we could click, links we could click on here. The green bar across underneath DVMUG has several buttons, home, blog, contact, and whatnot. I want to show you the status bar and how it is useful. It really helps us check out links without clicking on them. So I'm in the Safari browser here. If I go to the View menu, I can click Show Status Bar. Once I've done that, when I click on a link, the actual address of that link is going to show up. For Safari, it shows up in the lower left part of the screen. This might be hard to see. I've clicked on blog. I haven't actually clicked on it, I'm sorry. I put the cursor on blog. And what lights up down below in the lower left, I've made these bigger to make them easier for you to see. This is where I have the cursor sitting on the blog button. And this is what you see down at the bottom of the screen, the address. That address is very legitimate. If I move the cursor to another button, I could move it over to meetings or to join or any of those buttons. The address is going to change slightly. So here are a couple of them. I've taken pictures of them to let you see them better. But one was the contact button, the other was the join button. And these are straightforward, and it demonstrates a well-designed website. And thank you, Ann, and thank you, John. Here is a similar kind of link on Amazon, where I just put the cursor on it, and this is what showed up in the lower left of Safari. That looks quite legitimate. I went to the Salvation Army and their homepage and stuck the cursor on a link, and this is what lit up in the status bar on the lower left. And now here's one more. This is when I went on a link on this page I showed you before. The blue view this email in your browser is a link. All of those pictures of ladies with cam share are links. The click to join free in red down below is a link. RussianWomenOnline.com in green, sort of in the middle of the white section, is a link. There's also a to unsubscribe click here. Never do this if you're concerned about being on a spoofed website, because it's not going to unsubscribe you. At any rate, if I go back here, notice by just putting the cursor on one of those links, what I get here. It's this very long, convoluted direction. And it comes from www.herbcab.icu. Wouldn't you expect it would be Russian women or, women online or something like that? This reeks of being a fish. The ICU, interestingly enough, is a kind of domain that they can use so it doesn't show where they're located. .us would be United States, .it would be Italy, .icu is not any country. What it actually stands for is ICU. So, I guess the hacker has a sense of humor or something when he set that up. And another interesting thing, all of these links, there are about 6 of them I described before, they all go to the exact same link. I'll show it to you one more time down at the bottom here. That's the one that pops up. It doesn't change. Unlike at DVMUG, when you're on different links, you get a different address. This all goes to the same address. The reason being that's where the bad stuff is going to happen. So I did check their unsubscribe, and that did not go to quite the same thing. I didn't click on it to see where it went. I think what it did was, do you really want to unsubscribe? You know, click here so we can get our malware on your machine.
What did you click on again on the top of the menu bar in order to get that view?
Which view are you talking about?
In order for you to see those websites, what did you click at the top of in order to get that view?
Well, okay, understand these status bar links are at the bottom of the screen, but the address bar is what you would normally use when you're going to Google or any of your websites. That's where the address goes in. We call it an address bar. It's the URL.
Peter, I think he was asking about the view status bar. You know how you went up to the menu.
Oh,
and
I
you
see.
view,
Right.
yeah.
I tell you what, let's, if you would, please hold your questions until we get through the keynote, and then I'll be happy to answer as many as possible. Okay?
Right.
But otherwise, we won't get through this at all. But that's a good question, and remind me to come back to it as the first question. Okay, actually right here, you can see at the top of the screen is, well, irrelevant to your question, but that's the most important thing to look for first if you can find it, to check out whether a email or what have you is possibly malware, a scam. I've gone ahead and highlighted it, so just to make sure you can see it. Here it is even easier to see. So Ramsbold Sprout P8T at yahoo.com.jp, which would be Japan, does not make any sense for this kind of an email where you're claiming your money or whatever, unclaimed cash, okay? So if you take a close look, you're gonna know this is bogus. Here's a pretty awkward one, supposedly from Apple. And I just want to point out a lot of the tells, you might say. What's wrong with this, okay? So right at the top, Apple payment informations with other device. Informations is not a word in our English. So that's right there, tells you somebody who doesn't speak English very well is writing this. Dear blank, they did not bother to put my name into the message. Actually, they could have, because you see that this was addressed to my email address. They could have said, Dear Mr. Weiler. If they were a little more sophisticated, it wouldn't be hard to do, and still send out millions of these things to a million people. But whenever it's dear person or whatever, be wary. Notice here, you only have 24 hours left to complete your information. Well, that's because they misspelled complete. And down below, I've circled a few punctuation and spelling-like errors. Actually, the period and the comma should be on the other side of what's marked there. That's a minor thing. The copyright there is the symbol for copyright, but they stuck a capital A in front of it. I've never seen it done that way, certainly not by Apple Incorporated. So there are all kinds of things wrong with this. And the most important one then is the address. As you can see, this is not the kind of an address that would come from Apple. If Apple were to even send you an email like this, which they wouldn't. So let's review then how to defend against these dark arts. First of all, pay attention when you're online. Read carefully what you're getting. And if your emotions get stimulated, really do your best to get logical again. Install security updates, both on your OS and iOS devices, your computers, your laptops, and the iPads and iPhones. Install them as soon as you can. Keep your Apple software up to date. Now I have a couple asterisks here because true confessions, I'm not running Catalina on my computers. I'm running Mojave. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm still depending on some 32-bit apps. And Mojave can run 64 and 32-bit apps. Apple is quite good with their security updates. Mojave will be secure for probably a year, possibly years from, ahead from now. So I'm not concerned about exposing myself while I keep updating Mojave. Once I can't update Mojave, then for sure I'll need to move to Catalina. Use strong passwords. Don't use something like 1234 or your first name or something like that. Even your mother's name, so forth, can be problematic. You can use a password app like 1Password or LastPass to help you with creating really strong passwords. And there is one defense that is the most powerful of all. Back up. Apple Computer provides Time Machine in all of the recent OS software, and Time Machine is excellent. It not only backs up, but it allows you to retrieve files that you may have dumped, emptied the trash, and you still have the ability to go back and replace. Time Machine does have some limitations though. It is important if you use Time Machine that you use it on an external hard drive. Don't just use it on your computer on the same hard drive that your system is running, because if the hard drive fails, you're not going to have backup. Carbon Copy Cloner and Super Duper are two excellent software packages. They both cost not very much, and they both work really well. I use Carbon Copy Cloner to clone my systems onto hard drives. I have more than one. I'm also working in the tech for my church, and I'm cloning their hard drives and so forth. It's really important to do, and I'll tell you why. Hackers, if they can get into your computer, they sometimes will install a kind of hack that encrypts your computer so that you yourself cannot get back into it. And then you'll get an email from them saying, we want $5,000 in Bitcoin or something like that. And they actually are shaking you down for money for hopefully to replace the system that you actually own. And if you pay them the money, it may or may not work. if you have a working full-fledged backup cloned, then you're good to go, because you can turn off your computer, you can initialize it and restore from your backup, and everything is good. I don't understand why the Contra Costa County library system allowed themselves to be hacked in that way. And it took them a month or so to really get up and running again. So if you are going to create an external backup, mini hard drives are one way to go about it. These work with USB. They're 3.0, which is a fast protocol. This one only costs about $50, and it can store up to 1 terabyte of information. If you need more than 1 terabyte, here's the same size, it will fit in the palm of your hand, mini hard drive that will store double that, 2 terabytes, and it's only about $28 a terabyte. And if you have even more information, you can get a thicker one, 4 terabytes, for $22. So the price is very reasonable, and it can make the difference between totally losing all of your digital files or having them back again. I use this device. It might be useful to some of you. It's a dual bay docking station. I can put full-size 3.5-inch bare drives into it, hard drives, clone one to the other, or clone off of my computer onto one, update a clone, so forth. It also takes the 2.5-inch, the ones that are in the mini hard drives I was showing you, and you can back up that way too.
How to identify and avoid phishing. Phishing is a scam designed to look like it's coming from a real company like Apple. These scammers send fake messages to trick you into sharing your personal information, like your social security number, your bank account, or your passwords. This information is then used to steal your money, your identity, or both. Here are some things to watch out for. Phishing could start with an unsolicited email, phone call, or text that claims it's real, but does not come from a legitimate source. They might use generic greetings, bad grammar, or links to fake websites asking for your information. But some phishing attempts can be harder to spot. If it seems suspicious, never click on any links, never open any attachments, and never give out your information, even if the link, caller, or website seems legit. Just remember, Apple will never ask you to send your personal information over email or text. Phishing can also show up on the web. You might get a pop-up claiming you've won some money or a special prize, or a warning about your device that looks like it's from macOS or iOS. These alerts might ask you to call a fake number or install a phony app. But here's a better idea. Close the entire window instead. Now here are more tips to avoid a phishing scam. If you need to change your Apple ID password or iCloud information, do it directly from the Settings app or System Preferences. On the web, make sure you go directly to the right website, like appleid.apple.com, instead of following a link. In Safari, you can check for the lock icon in the URL bar to confirm if a website is secure. And if you get a phishing email designed to look like it's from Apple, forward it to reportphishing@apple.com. Now that you know what to look for, hopefully you'll be able to spot a fake when you see it.
Anyway, to sum up, the internet remains a Wild West kind of environment. There isn't a police force to help keep us safe. The bad guys are going to continue to try to take advantage of us. So like it or not, we each are responsible for our own safety on the internet. And now I actually have created a test to see how well you've been listening, but don't worry, it's a multiple choice test, and here it is. How do you choose to operate your digital devices in the future? Please choose one. I hope you all chose the latter, to be vigilant. And I'll conclude with the words of a very wise man, I think the greatest cartoonist in my lifetime, Walt Kelly. We have met the enemy and he is us. So keep that in mind and do stay safe. The BBS is going to have a copy of this keynote if you wish to have a look at it again. And I also have a really interesting exchange of emails from a scammer and his target, in which the target turns on the scammer and actually scams the scammer. It is hilarious. It's an excellent read. I think you'll enjoy it. So that concludes this keynote presentation. And if we have time for it, I'd be happy to try to answer some questions.
I have a question. Where do you find the dark web?
I prefer to let one of our experts talk about that because I've never actually searched for it, but it does exist. Is there someone who'd like to respond to that?
If you have to ask, you're not going to find it.
Well, okay, that's not very satisfactory.
You have to be referred to the dark web.
You need an invitation, huh?
Oh, really? Okay.
How many of you know what Tor is?
How many know what is?
Tor.
T-O-R?
Yes.
Hang on, John.
How about you explain it?
Unmute button. Could you please unmute everyone?
Unmute everyone.
I don't have that ability because you hit the button.
Where would you see that?
It's down below. It's at the bottom of the participant screen.
I see mute all.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
okay.
it.
So do I. I'm going to unmute people manually.
Well, people can unmute themselves.
Yes.
Anyway, what Tor is basically it's a way that you can access the web anonymously. Because what it does is, like, for example, every one of us right now has an IP address. Very easy to trace. What Tor does is it bounces around all over the planet to all these different places, which makes you nearly impossible to track. Most people on the dark web, they use that. When Edward Snowden was first hiding from the government, he was using Tor because that was how he was able to communicate with people securely. That and using encryption. But basically, there's a lot of nasty stuff that happens on the dark web. A lot of drug sales now has gone there, and it's all done in Bitcoin because Bitcoin enables you to do financial transactions completely anonymously.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. I'm in the process of helping one of our inspectors set up an old iMac, and it's specifically going to be a dark web computer.
Huh.
That's all he's going to do with it, is go on the dark web and try to, catch people doing nasty stuff.
Good luck with that.
There was a question, I'm not sure who asked. Someone wanted to know how to get the
It's up here.
links to show up.
Correct. Yes.
It's almost anything when you have view. Then you
Right. If I could go into screen share just for one more moment.
Yes.
This is the picture that shows in Safari, you go to the view menu. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And then a little ways down is show status bar.
There we go.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're
Yes.
welcome.
Perfect.
Peter, would you
That was
want
very
to
helpful.
add some information regarding how to protect yourself and your financial information by
I'm sorry, I missed the end of your question.
We muted again.
Yeah, you got muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I was going to add if there's another way to protect yourself from losing your financial information or everything that you've owned by using dual point authentication. What that does is you set up an account with the establishment, and you provide them with a phone number, and they'll call you back instead of the person that's trying to get your money.
Thank you for that. That would be a good point to have added to this presentation. Two-point authentication is very valuable. It's a little bit of a hassle. It takes you a bit of extra time. The party might be sending you a code to your phone, which you would need to then type into your computer to make the connection. But only you with your phone are able to get the code. So that's a good way to give an extra level of security.
And the key to that is you have to make sure that you actually have more than one device.
Right.
Because we've had people come into the clinic and they've had their Mac set up for two-factor authentication for their Apple ID, but they don't have an iPad, they don't have an iPhone, they have one computer, and it can really be a nightmare. So if you have the equipment to do it, it is a very, very valuable security tool, because there's almost no way that a scammer can fake that. But
Right.
you just got to make sure that you've got the equipment to do it.
Which would mean one OS device and one iOS device.
Right.
You can also specify to send it to you via email.
Yes.
One of the things that you didn't mention explicitly anyway is that scam that seemed to work pretty well a while back, where you get if they trick you into clicking on a website, they then tell you that your computer has been taken over, and when you try to close down or get rid of those guys, they won't let you get off your
Around
off their
around for
they won't let you get off your screen. And there's a way to break out of that. And
I said I had a program I was watching.
There's a way to break out of that maybe you could explain. Do you know what the scam I'm referring to?
Yes, that's real common. It appears your computer is locked up because you can't do anything.
Exactly, that's the one.
And that's what they get you. It appears there's something wrong, and it says call this number to fix it.
Right.
That's the most common thing. You call the number, they talk you into going through a whole procedure where they take control of your computer,
Exactly.
show you something that's you don't understand, and say, here's the problem. Okay, we'll fix it. It's $300.
Right.
Oh,
That's really common. I've had many people do that.
People
And
fall
at
for
that
that a
point, they
lot.
usually hang up. But I've had more than a dozen people actually pay the $300.
oh,
Exactly.
God.
I've
But
had two people who didn't learn their lesson and they paid a second time.
Oh
Oh.
my
And
God.
I said the third time, I'm not coming to your, when I have to come to your house, I'm going to take your computer away.
This
So
this is
so
So the way
tell
you get out
people,
of that, you don't
yeah,
call the number on the phone. Call one of us. It's really simple. You just force quit your browser. You push on the dock on the icon of Safari, and it'll pop up a menu, and you say force quit.
yeah.
And if that doesn't work, Command, Option, the two keys to the left of the space bar, and the escape key at the top left of your screen, ESC, those three buttons will bring up a list of running apps. You can pick your frozen app, your browser, and force quit. Usually, that's all it takes. Sometimes you have to start Safari back up with the shift key down because they'll fix it so when you start the browser back up, it goes back to their frozen page.
right.
right.
So you hold the shift key down when you start your browser, it will go back to your original home page. Then you can, with no extensions running, then you can quit Safari and start up normally and you're fine.
Oh,
That's the way out of that.
Yeah, and so that's a real important one, Peter, to include in your next talk, because that one works because they scare everybody to death.
Right, you're stuck. It appears it's true that your computer is frozen and you can't use it, so you call the number.
And I believe the $300 magic number is just under a felony. So they,
Oh, that's why.
that's why they
Also,
A self-point of the law.
what they do is
Hmm.
they have a legitimate website you can go to. If you call them back
Yeah.
on the phone after you pay them the money, they'll answer the phone. They're a business.
Yeah.
You paid them $300. They install free software that you could download yourself. They run on your computer and say, we fixed your computer. We charged you $300 for a service to fix your computer. We didn't scam you. We provided a service. So they get away with it. You can go to their website. They're there.
oh my God.
Right. Basically, what the malware does is it takes over the homepage of Safari or whatever browser.
And it's not your computer that is infected at that point. It's the server at the other end that's infected. It could be a legitimate website that got hacked, and you go there and it's a legitimate site, and all of a sudden your computer's frozen. There's nothing wrong with your computer. It's the other end that got hacked, not your computer.
Peter,
I see red
you need to change your email ID. You are part of Yahoo who got hacked, didn't tell anybody for 2 years, and you're getting it all.
Yahoo's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was the worst. I mean, now that if you change your password recently, they put in security where they have to change your password. They'll text a code to your phone, to your, they have all the security now that everybody else has, but they didn't for a very long time. And they got hacked many times.
Got a question about something called sitelock.security. I've been getting these on one of my email, I guess, mailboxes, and my computer, a desktop Mac, it allows me to load remote contact, and I typically do this when I get one of these sites, and it says we'll let you know if your website gets infected with malware, and I load remote content and scan what they print, and it says 7 scans run, 14 pages scanned on my particular website, and issues found 0. And these things, I don't know where it came from. I've never heard of SiteLock, and I don't know whether I've subjected myself to something hazardous here or whether this is some way legitimate or not. Any comment?
Go to Google and type in SiteLock, their address. reviews and see what people say. Some of these kind of services are legitimate. Some of them are scams. Did they
Yeah.
ask you for money?
No, it doesn't. And it shows site lock, and it shows no reply at sitelock.security. And I don't know if I hover over that, I don't see
Okay,
any.
you don't need an external service to this. Whoever is your provider that's hosting your domain name, if you log into the control panel there, they should have services that monitor their server internally.
Okay, so maybe that's where it originated, because I don't remember asking for it, but it just suddenly appeared, and it appeared to be useful. So I'll explore it a little bit more.
Rick has his hand up.
Yeah,
Beg your
yeah. I put the little raised hand so I could get some attention. Somebody asked during your presentation, Peter, how you would determine the source address of some of these spoofed emails. And I may have missed it, and I was listening intently, but who knows? A lot of people don't know that if you hover over the correspondence address, at the very right end of it, there's a little caret, a little arrow that appears. If you hover over that, it will show you the true source email address of that person who may be imitating Apple or such. Did you cover that, Peter?
No, I didn't, Rick.
I think
And
that the lady who asked the question earlier was talking about that rather than browser stuff.
Yeah. She was.
Yes, in email, anytime you see a link, mouse over it and don't click. Just put your mouse over it and a pop-up will come up and it'll show the true address.
Very useful.
Thank you. Mhm.
Peter, I had a question.
yes.
In your lecture, you said about unsubscribe, that is, it could be not really a true place. I had no idea that. I thought each time when I'm clearing out all these things, I'm always hitting unsubscribe.
Oh no, don't, unless it's from somebody that you do business with. Like if you buy something from Amazon and they keep sending you stuff and you don't want to get, promotional stuff from Amazon. Yes, you unsubscribe to real companies. Anytime you go and buy something on the web, there'll be a little checkbox to subscribe and it's checked automatically. So you start getting emails from those people like Nordstrom's or Macy's or something. If you don't want them when you get it from a real company you've done business with, for sure unsubscribe. If you get an email from somebody you've never done business with, do not click unsubscribe. What that does is it tells them you're a real human being and you read the message. Put me on your good list. This is a valid email address. I responded, I'm a human.
Yes. Okay,
Don't do that.
Thank you. I had no idea.
That just means send me more stuff.
Debbie, yikes. I've done it too. Yikes.
It's also
you get a
scam phone calls you get. If you don't want to receive any more of our phone calls, press 3 or something. Don't do it. Don't do it. It just tells them you're a live one and they'll sell your phone number to the next bunch of people.
They can make a link go anywhere they want, and they can give it any name they want. So they can use unsubscribe or, get your $1,000 or whatever. Yeah, they're not nice people. They're out to separate you from your important information and your money.
Yes, thank you.
Arlene's raising her hand.
Arlene?
He's muted.
Here. Arlene, you're still muted.
Arlene, press your space bar and hold it to talk.
Okay. I have been told by Experian that my address is on the dark web. I know that. I figure I've had the same email address for 40 years. You know, I understand that. But, and I don't want to change it because that's, everybody has that. But is there, can I, if I change the password, will that help?
No.
No.
No?
Well, it would help,
Can't,
at least.
once it's out there, you can't get it back. Once you're, what are you worried about? You're getting spam in your email?
I get some, but everybody gets some.
Distracting during the meeting. Just don't.
You're muted again.
Okay, I don't have any real issues. I don't have any big problems.
I would recommend that you get yourself a Gmail address and start weaning yourself out of AOL. Arlene, just unmute yourself. You're when the space bar isn't working, you keep unmuting yourself. Just turn it off. Unmute yourself permanently.
Okay. I have a Gmail address, but my Apple Mail doesn't work very well, so I don't use it for anything other than to send places that are going to send me advertising mail.
Why wouldn't your Apple Mail work very well?
Oh, we've gone through that.
Right now, it should work perfectly.
Yeah, but it never has worked well for me. That's another issue. That is an issue, but I've given up on that one. But I was just wondering if changing your password or something like that would help. And
it will help a little.
It will keep people from being able to, you know, the ones who have your email address and might have your old password, it'll stop them from getting any new information that comes down.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. When you change your email or your password, it will cause a problem with Apple Mail in that you'll need to update your Apple Mail so it'll know you've changed your password.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Oh, I had one other thing I was just going to say. This thing about the ransomware, I've gotten a number of those emails from time to time, not recently or anything. And I've always just shut down my computer real fast and everything, and I never saw it again. Is that an effective thing to do?
Well, I don't know what did the message say?
Well, you know, one of these things that says you've got a virus, you've got, you know, something.
Well, if it works, it is effective, but otherwise, if it comes back, you have to follow the steps John pointed out. Hold down the shift key when you
It seems to have always worked for me.
You might just very quickly do Control-Shift-3, and that'll be a screenshot of your display, and then shut down. And that way you could see what was there before you aborted.
So if you're getting these pop-up things that say there's something wrong with your computer, you should pay attention to the last thing you did before that happened. Whatever you clicked on to make that come up, that was not a good place to be. And you shouldn't go there anymore. That site or whatever link is you're clicking on is the problem.
Okay.
So
good. It's only happened a couple of times, but it's worked for me every time.
David Epley has a hand up.
Yes, he does. I just wanted to mention to Peter one other. I always thought I was pretty bulletproof on these phishing scams. And I got one the other day that I fell for. So I wanted to mention it to you. You didn't mention it in your presentation. It was from Dropbox. And I checked online afterwards, and there are a lot of Dropbox scams out there. This Dropbox came from a woman that who normally puts together our class reunions. So that really kind of hooked me in. And then she was offering to share, or appeared to be offering to share some information on Dropbox about the last reunion, I think, or an upcoming reunion, something I really wanted to see, right? And since I didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't occur to me that this was going to be a scam, but it was. And so they tricked me into giving them, I forget, I had to sign in to get access to this or something. And since I hadn't been through the Dropbox share procedure, it seemed, a reasonable thing to do. So that's another one to watch out for. That's a little innovative, and it was beautifully constructed site. It looked just like a Dropbox, none of the usual misspellings or crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I got a letter yesterday in the mail. It came supposedly from the Bank of Singapore.
Oh,
and
you're an important guy.
Evidently $13.5 million in an account that the person the official sending it to me is willing to split.
Uh-huh. That's the old prince from Nigeria scam.
Yeah.
You've gotten some great ones, Peter. Oh my God.
You're clearly well known in the scam community, Peter.
One that a friend of mine, who I really respect her judgment in most things, but got one of these that the elderly are getting about their grandchildren who's sick and whatever. And this lady actually went down to the bank to take out her money, and the bank told her, don't send them anything. But how does that happen? And they actually she thought her granddaughter talked to her, and it sounded like her granddaughter and the whole thing. How did they do that?
Yeah, how did they do that?
Very cleverly.
Yeah.
You can fake vote people's voices now if you've got a sample of them talking. I've seen the software demonstrated, and it is exceptionally good. So one of my friends just recently had someone who lives here in Rossmore, in fact, just got bilked out of $300,000.
Oh my God!
By one of these scams. It was. You notice how every so often you get these things that are in Chinese or Japanese, and they're talking to you. Well, there was one of those ones, and they got a hold of this gal, and she was quite naive, and they tricked her into wiring $300,000, and apparently it's gone. There's no way to get it back. They've been talking to the FBI and other people about it, and they said, "Well, no, you're screwed, folks." And so these things do work, and they can hurt. They got her whole retirement account.
Oh my God!
That's really sad.
That is
very
so
sad.
You
That only happened about a month ago.
Oh my God!
I got a call from supposedly a grandson. It sounded like he was in a bowling alley or something. Muffled the voice somewhat, and I'm really in trouble, and I need some help. And would you please? And so I said, sure, I'll be happy to help you. Tell me the middle name of your sister.
Oh.
Well, the fact of the matter is he didn't have a sister. I mean, my grandson didn't have a sister. So, it was a bogus
You
question.
got him a double there, yeah. Good.
Yeah, but
Fast thinking.
basically I got some expletives and he hung up. So,
Okay.
I got a question on, when I started looking here, I punched a button that said recording, and then it's got a couple of other things that says your client connection is encrypted and meeting information, and I don't know where it's going to be recorded or how to retrieve it, and I haven't figured out how to shut it off.
Pardon? You're recording on your computer, you can stop it.
Okay, I don't know what to do to stop it. I pressed
there's a button to stop on the
button. I pressed on the recording, and I pressed on the red button, and it doesn't go out.
When it's recording, it changes to stop or pause.
Well, maybe it never started, but it does say recording and has a little red.
No, that's me recording.
It's what?
That's not you.
That's
me.
recording.
Oh, that's you that's recording. Okay. Well, I thought I was recording, and I didn't know where it was going to end up. So, all right, I'll get it off the bulletin board one of these days.
I would
Great
just
job,
like,
at any rate. Great job, Peter.
yes,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
good
going to
work.
say,
A lot of work,
thank
Peter.
Peter for
That's
this.
right.
This is one of the most informative presentations I've seen, and you
Bravo.
did a beautiful job.
Oh,
Well, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much. I wish I'd gotten my pencil to work. I was going to do some marking up, but oh well. Next time.
Next time, right?
Yeah.
So John, are you going to be able to come over and help me put my new phone together? Since I can't come to the office?
Is your old phone dead?
Basically, I mean, it's on the charger, and but if I take it off that, the battery just goes.
That's okay. As long as it's running, you can back it up to your iTunes and then just restore it to your new phone. It's easy. You can do it over the phone.
Well,
He has a Nook phone.
Literally. There's an email I'll send you. There's been in the MailChimp. How do you do this? You do it through iTunes. It just works.
yeah.
John, she may have an old version of Mac OS. She may have problems connecting a new phone to it. I know I did. I couldn't get it to work.
That may be true.
Yeah. And my laptop's in one room, and my old phone is in another room.
Move it.
Okay.
One or the other.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for tonight then, folks. Thanks a lot for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next month.
Everybody wave bye-bye. We'll stop
Bye.
recording. Say bye-bye.
About elections.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, we talked about elections.
Okay.